And for more, I'm joined now from Denver, Colorado by Michael Moran. He is the CEO and Chief Research Officer at Transformative, a risk analysis company. Thank you so much for being with us.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So as the international community calls for more facts to be gathered before placing the blame, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was very quick to accuse Iran of attacking the Saudi oil facility without producing any definitive evidence to support that claim. And the US president appears to agree with him. When you look at the facts available to us right now, what is your assessment of who's responsible, where this attack came from, and whether we're talking about drones or cruise missiles here or something else?
Well, what we see right now is tracking really very heavily toward Iran, in part because of the sophistication of the attack and the accuracy of the attack. The Yemeni Houthis have launched relatively unsophisticated missiles into Saudi before. They're not guided in a very kind of sophisticated sense. In other words, they're not able to hit within yards of a target. These apparently hit the Saudi oil facility very accurately and did enormous damage to a really critical point of infrastructure, not just for the Saudis, but for the global oil infrastructure. So it does suggest a more sophisticated hand than a rebel group in Yemen. And
what would be the motive for Iran attacking Saudi Arabian oil facilities?
Well, you know, that's a very good question. Iran may very well be trying to bring the United States to the negotiating table. That is a very fraught strategy with this president or any president.
It appears a risky gamble, doesn't it, to do that? When really they were poised to meet, weren't they, the US president and the Iranian president?
It does appear a gamble. I do think that the Iranians are very unhappy with the sanctions that have largely shut off the main source of hard currency to their economy. They are extremely angry that the Saudis are benefiting from the relationship with the United States, which is as close as it's ever been, and which has been pretty much, impervious to world anger over the Saudi war in Yemen. So I think the Iranians may well have felt they had a motive, and it could be that it's ultimately there's someone within the Iranian, hierarchy, whether it's the Revolutionary Guard or some other group, that is ultimately tagged with responsibility. Obviously, this is a classic Middle Eastern situation where conspiracy theories will swirl. I tend to find the conspiracy theories unconvincing. Right now, on the forensic evidence, it looks very much as though Iran is the main suspect.
Okay. Now, after the attack, President Trump tweeted that the US was locked and loaded as a response. He's backing away from any military response now. But how wise was it for Mr. Trump to threaten Iran? And what would that fight look like if, for any reason, the US president decided to attack Iran?
The threat is the threat. The rhetoric this president uses is always overheated. He's always locked and loaded, let's face it. The fact is he's been relatively restrained in a military sense internationally. I think the concern in Washington, in this administration or any administration, is that the Iranians are have a global footprint. They have, as your reporter in the lead-in suggested, they've got influence with groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, who have shown that they have the capability to strike beyond the borders of their own territorial control. They have influence internationally with groups as far afield as areas of South America and in Africa as well. So this is not a case of rolling out some F-22s and shooting some Tomahawk missiles from submarines. This is a country that can retaliate. It can take a punch and wait and retaliate at the worst possible moment. So the calculus is fairly significant in Washington, I think, right now, not eager to get into a war.
Just very quickly, why would the US even be considering military option here, given this attack took place on Saudi soil? How is this America's fight?
That's an ideological question, and I honestly think that the administration that is currently in power in the United States has aligned itself incredibly closely to both Israel and to the Saudis. It has a almost reflexive, tendency to back whatever comes out of Riyadh or Tel Aviv/Jerusalem. Now Jerusalem, of course, because the administration has recognized that as the capital of Israel. So you have a very different administration in place now. Now, having said that, the initial reaction or reflexive reaction may not ultimately manifest itself as policy. They may not go through with anything. And there is a menu of things the United States can do that, short of military action, and certainly short of enormous military force,
right,
that would hurt the Iranians.
We shall be watching to see what Iran's next move is in this. Michael Moran, thank you so much for your analysis. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, the attacks on